Hey everyone, it's time for another live look at the astrology. My name is Katie Sweetman, and this is your look at the astrology for December 16th through 22nd, 2024. So we have only 2 more full weeks left of the year, and boy, what a year has it been? And maybe this is a good segue to ask, like, how has 2024 been for you? Let's sort of celebrate the wins. Let's sort of look at the bigger picture. Certainly, at least for me, it was a big year. I had moving and in a different state and I'm sure other things, but yeah, so as we wind down the year, we are in Sagittarius season. And Sagittarius is part of a set of signs. These are called mutable signs, and these are the signs that help us to understand, discover, and to learn about our world. So when we get to Sagittarius season, we do have 1 more week left of Sagittarius season, less than a week left of Sagittarius season. It's meant to be a season that opens up our eyes, that makes our world bigger, that inspires us to seek, to travel, and explore. Of course, you can do that from the comfort of your own home. And for those that love to travel, maybe this is a time when you're thinking about going to see other places in the world. But a little funny side note now that I'm thinking about it. So maybe if you are not from the United States, you might not know who I'm talking about. But I had this like really vivid dream where I ran into Rick Steves of Rick Steves Travel Europe fame, and we were just sort of talking. So yeah, I got Sagittarius on the brain. And speaking of dreams, we have really strong aspects to Neptune this week. So maybe your own dreams are very vivid. Maybe you're dreaming of people or dreaming of Rick Steves. But anyway, that's my Sag rising that loves to travel. But for those that don't know who I am, my name is Katie Sweetman, and I'm an astrologer and psychic medium presently located in the rolling hills of central Maryland. And every week we gather live to look at the astrology. You hear me say it every week. The astrology is 50%. You're the other 50%. How are we a participant with our astrology, knowing that astrology is time, the energy of time, and how we live time? So there you go. If you are watching live, as always, say hello. Nice to see where you're watching from. I see some familiar faces in the chat. Hello. I realize we're in the holiday season, so I really appreciate you all being with me throughout not just this year, perhaps even many years. Some of you are my clients, also very appreciative of you too. Yes, I do one-on-one consultations. So having said all that, let's just do a quick recap, because yesterday, the 15th of December, we had a Gemini full moon. And this full moon had a lot of layers to it. On a very sort of surface level, you could say, well, Gemini is a sign of voice and communication. It's about learning. It's about insights, ideas, the ability to speak, the ability to write, curiosity, but even the importance and the power of choice. And again, that's just surface level, because we all live that energy in our own way, in our own life, in our own astrology. And this full moon picked up on the mutable signs. You heard me say that a few moments ago when I was sort of talking about Sag and the Sag season and how this is a season to discover, to explore. So Gemini is the first mutable sign. It says life at its very basic, at least in terms of learning and exploring. We have to sort of read. We have to get curious. We have to discover. We have to try new things. That's Gemini. And then we have Virgo, which is about critical thinking. It's about organizational skills and understanding where all the different pieces move. And then we get to Sagittarius, and we get knowledge. We get certainly the higher degrees compared to Gemini's more, school level degrees. But these are not the last of the mutable signs. Pisces is the last of the mutable signs, and we've got a lot of stuff going on in Pisces in 2024, 2025. We got eclipses that are going to be in Pisces this year. Well, we already had it this year, September 17th. But in 2025, Pisces continues to be a focal point. Neptune is in and out of Pisces. We've got Neptune, as you probably know, or you don't know, Neptune will make its first arrival in Aries. Saturn will make its first arrival in Aries as well in 2025. Just quick segue to tomorrow. I am doing a live presentation on the astrology of 2025. It's at 8 p.m. Eastern. You don't need to watch it live. It will be on Zoom, but also will be recorded for those that can't watch live. So next year, we're going to be talking about like the fact that we have different planets changing signs. It's actually kind of a big deal because Neptune hasn't changed signs in 14 years. Uranus is going to make its first arrival in Gemini after 6 years in Taurus. We've got Pluto as of November. It's in Aquarius. We got Saturn going into Aries next year just for a little bit. So the hands on the clock, personal clock and collective clock, are beginning to point towards new hours. So it's a good deep dive for you to understand what is going on in the skies, what's sort of these bigger stories, and how 2025 is part of a new era. And I don't say that lightly. It's to my knowledge, I've not seen, at least in our recent history, or maybe even my lifetime, where all these outer planets change signs at the same time. So that's tomorrow, December 17th, Tuesday, 8 p.m. Eastern. It's about 2.5-ish hours. Sometimes it's 3. Yes, it's a lot of talking for me, but it will have the different sections for the different signs, so you can get a little insight to what 2025 means for your sun and rising sign. So that was a little bit of a tangent. Back to the full moon in Gemini, and I was talking about Pisces because Pisces, as the last sign of the zodiac, says that wisdom and knowledge needs to be integrated. It also needs to open up spaces inside of us. We need to be able to transmit wisdom and knowledge to other people, to the next generation. Pisces is also a very spiritual sign. It gets into these bigger questions about meaning and purpose. Sagittarius is purpose and meaning, but more on an external level. It's, I have a degree, so this is my purpose, or this is the role that I play in the world. But Pisces, it's internal. So with this Gemini full moon, it's really playing off of, I think except for Virgo, the mutable signs. And so there's overlay to what we're experiencing at the moment. In theory, that's a lot about what do we believe in? What do we stand for? What do we think is true? What is our meaning and purpose in our lives? And I realize these are perhaps for some of you very big questions, but Sag and Pisces, these are big question kind of signs. And certainly Neptune and Pisces gets into these deeper existential questions and even these emotions and feelings and even dreams that might be bubbling up right now, vivid dreams, for example. So that's a lot of the overlay at the moment. And I was saying in the beginning, that yesterday's full moon had layers to it because the full moon happened just hours before Mercury went direct. So Mercury is no longer retrograde. You can now live your lives. It's a joke, but it means that now we're more in an active phase of Mercury. We're not in that receptive phase of Mercury. But I've noticed when a planet turns direct, certainly when Mercury turns direct, certainly when Mercury turns direct on a full moon, information can come to light. There's conversations that actually might be very important conversations to have, or maybe you're having very different experiences, but these are at least the top level bullets of this Gemini full moon. The other layer is Mercury turned direct in a square to Saturn. And Saturn is a planet that sort of takes that Gemini energy of I want to try everything. I want to do everything. Everything is fun. And Saturn says you need to pick something. You need to make a commitment. You need to take this seriously. I know it sounds a little bit like a buzzkill, but Saturn energy helps us to create structure and form and to have the maturity, maybe not the book smarts maturity that Sagittarius is known for, but sort of the time and having lived time maturity, having learned from our mistakes maturity, that Saturn, and by extension its ruler, Capricorn, and even Aquarius, is known for. So that's an overlay of what we're experiencing right now. Also, full moons, they can create events, they can be provocative, they can again put something in the full light. That's what they do. And actually, one of the things that I'm talking about in my webinar tomorrow for the astrology of 2025 is how the lunar cycle is one of the major drivers of time. And so when we look to the coming year, we have to look to the lunar cycle, we have to look to the new and full moons, we have to look to the eclipses, in addition to Saturn also being the primary driver of time. So got lots to talk about in that webinar tomorrow. Of course, it's recorded if you can't watch live, and it will be uploaded to the account that is created when you register. So you can go to my website, empoweringastrology.com. You can go to the show notes to also get the link for the webinar, The Astrology of 2025. And as some of you probably know, I do a webinar for the coming year each year. At least I have been since about 2019 and 2020. So we're coming off that full moon, and this full moon, even though full moons typically play out for a couple of days, there's sort of this energy 2 or 3 days before, 2 or 3 days after, but in a way it's playing out even into next week, because Mercury will square Saturn next week, Jupiter will square Saturn on the 24th of December, and again, it gets into these questions about what are you choosing? What do you want? And maybe that pulls into something that we were talking about perhaps a couple weeks ago with Mars retrograde. This is, as we go into 2025, we need to be very clear about what our desires are. Not head clear, but a heart clear. That's the thing about desires, that you have to feel it. It can't be an abstract idea. And so we have the Mars retrograde saying, okay, what are your desires for the new year? What do you want to put your heart in, your energy and your creativity, your spirit? Mars retrograde in Leo. We got the Saturn energy, especially in Pisces, that's saying, whatever you're building, make sure it's in alignment with you, your spirit, your truth, your values. And then, with Mercury square Saturn, as we go to the start of the year, no pressure. We need to get very focused, very organized, so that we can at least come up with some sort of a plan, as much as anybody can come up with a plan these days. So these are like the big things that are going on. And I did talk a few moments ago about Neptune and the fact that maybe we're all having really vivid dreams, or we're having strange intuitions, because this week, as the sun reaches the end of Sagittarius, it makes a square to Neptune in Pisces. And, two things. One, when the sun gets to that last stretch of Sagittarius, so about, the 20 degree to the 29th degree of Sagittarius, we're actually looking towards a part of the sky. At least the sun is in alignment with a certain part of the sky that connects us to deep space points. A little bit of astronomy. The center of the galaxy, at least the direction of the center of the galaxy, is presently located around 27 degrees of Sagittarius. So when you see those photographs, and those photographs show the Milky Way, which in theory can only be done around 6 months from now, or when the sun is in Gemini, because we don't have the sun blocking that part of the sky. But this time of year, the sun is in alignment with the galactic center. It's in alignment with deep space points, Sagittarius A, the center of the galaxy, supermassive black hole. And it's why there's this sort of interesting energy with that last 10 degrees of Sagittarius. So if you've got major points in your astrology, if you got your ascendant, you got your moon, it's like you're picking up on, I don't want to say extraterrestrial energy, but something in a way that sort of connects us back to these deep space points. So it's a week where even if you don't have anything in your astrology that connects to these points, we're sort of connecting back to source. And I'm saying that from an astronomical level, but then again, maybe it's on a deeper energetic level as well. So there's that. And then there's also the fact that Neptune has come to the end of Pisces. So Sag and Pisces are what are called mutable signs that we got to square this week. And Neptune is an evolutionary planet, and it blurs the boundaries between our physical world and our non-physical world. It can be an antenna. It can be, very subtle. It can be confusing. And so we really need to find our anchor point and our grounding this week. And maybe that's where that Saturn energy comes in, because Neptune can also drain us. It can make us feel very tired, very sensitive. It sort of has this atmospheric energy. And, certainly here where I am in the mid-Atlantic part of the United States, like, it's been foggy, it's been wet. And, I think of Neptune as that very foggy energy, but of course I'm sure it's very different in your part of your world. So it's sort of a strange week in the sense that we're sort of pointing towards these deep space points. We have Neptune that's pulling back the veil. And how do we work with this? Maybe we do need to slow down. Maybe we do need to meditate or sort of get quiet so we can hear something or feel something. And again, making sure we're very grounded, because as we go into the weekend, we have the sun's arrival in Capricorn. So we will talk more about Capricorn and Capricorn season next week. Happy early birthday, Capricorn. But for those that know, it is the solstice on Saturday, at least here in this part of the world. It's the winter solstice for those that are in the northern hemisphere like me. It is the summer solstice for those that are watching from the southern hemisphere. So for those of us who are in the northern hemisphere, it is the return of the light. It is the darkest day of the year, and every day going forward, we will have more and more daylight. And then, of course, it's the reverse for those that are in the southern hemisphere. You have the summer solstice. It's the longest day of the year, and then going forward, you will have increasingly more darkness. And there's a lot of symbology about that, and there's a reason that, at least from the northern hemisphere perspective, that the ancients, they burned the Yule log. They sort of celebrate it in all these different ways. The light, because we sort of recognize that the sun now is coming back after these increasingly dark days after the summer solstice, and certainly by the time we reach the equinox here in the northern hemisphere, an equal day, equal night, and then we go into Scorpio season. So anyway, solstice, very powerful energy. It sort of initiates us into that last part of the year. Remember, the astrological year does not follow the calendar year, but one of the things about Capricorn energy is that it really can put us in the reality of time and the reality of the things that we need to do, perhaps the things that we haven't done. It can have a little bit of a heavier energy, but we also have the other side of Capricorn. It gives us the footing that we need to climb and to make things real. That's why we typically get to the end of the year and we think about our goals. We think about the things that we want to create, the things that we want to do more of, the things that we want to do less of. So we have that energy as we go into the end of the year. So that is your look at the astrology of this week, December 16th through 22nd, 2024. Of course, we will go through each of the 12 zodiac signs. Again, a reminder, join me tomorrow night for the live presentation of the astrology of 2025, and you can get the recording even if you can't watch it live, or you want to watch it a few times. I get asked also this question every year. I do gift certificates. The link is in the show notes. And then final plug, I'm migrating to a new platform for my webinars and my courses, so you can always check out my, you can learn things about astrology, so I'll be talking more about that in the new year. So just a friendly reminder that you can listen for your sun sign and your rising sign. These are two different perspectives on your life. You can get good information from the sun sign. It is your rising sign. It is that exact birth time that gives you the wider perspective for your life. So, having said that, let's start with Aries. Aries, so Mars is your planet. It is retrograde. We've been talking about this the past couple of weeks. So in at least what this translates as, this is a time not to punch the gas. It's a time to slow down, to reflect, to do a little bit of internal digging, because when Mars is retrograde, it brings you to the past. It is what's called a yin expression. It's yin energy. It's not yang, active, moving forward. It is going back and it's retracing its steps. Therefore, there is something that you need to retrace your steps on. And this is actually going to take you into the new year because Mars will be retrograde all the way until February 23rd. Right now, it's about desire because Mars is in Leo, and desire is not a mental concept. It needs to be felt. That's the thing, that's the thing, Aries, is that because you are ruled by Mars, you already know your desires. It's typically a sign that is very well put with like what it wants, going after what it wants. But maybe that's part of the retrograde. You need to get a new perspective. Like, are you going towards what you really need to go towards? Because there is a sense of needing to work on something to bring consciousness to it while a planet is retrograde, and certainly while your planet is retrograde. So we have Mars in Leo. It's about creativity. It's about identity. It's about the things that really truly light you up and give you joy and give you passion, and gaining a new perspective from that. And then we also, of course, just had that Gemini full moon. That Gemini full moon is still with us, and it's with us throughout the year. Mercury has turned retrograde as of yesterday, December 15th. So what this means, Aries, is that there's some sort of process that you're working through, whether it is to gain new perspective, to think about things differently, to really figure out what do you believe in, what do you stand for, what is your truth, what is your convictions. Because as we go into the new year, and certainly next week, Jupiter squares Saturn, Mercury squares Saturn. So the devil's in the details a little bit at the moment. Really sit with the things that you are committing to, not committing to, what you're saying, how you're speaking, how you're listening, because that Saturn energy requires a lot of time, a lot of thought, and a lot of reflection. Maybe things are being asked of you at the moment. More is being asked of you to step into new roles. Maybe you need to teach more. Maybe you have an ability to, as you go into the new year, to write about something, speak about something. And for some Aries, it's about education at the moment. And just a little, since we are so close to the new year, you are beginning to wrap up a major cycle because starting next May, the end of May, Saturn is going to make that first arrival in Aries, and you're in Aries. So 2025 on some level is a new beginning for you. And maybe I just want to plant this seed because as you go into the new year, it's to be very conscientious about what you are bringing with you into 2025, and certainly after May of 2025, and what you are leaving behind. Taurus. So Venus is your planet, and right now Venus is in Aquarius, and Aquarius takes you at least into the start of the new year through the top of your chart. I know it's kind of a funny season to think, well, it's about ambition, it's about your career, but the astrology is the astrology. It doesn't follow the fact that it's the holiday season, and we'd rather sort of not be pushing it forward. But maybe you are thinking about your career and your ambitions for 2025. You also have Pluto now in your career sign. It'll be there for the next 20 years, so that's going to be just little thing fell off. That's going to be different for each Taurus. But, you did have a very interesting opposition with Mars and a conjunction to Pluto last week. And it's to really see how relationship themes are bleeding into this week. We just had that Gemini full moon, and for you, Taurus, Gemini is your sign of money, income, material stability, and security. So financial matters may still be playing out this week and next week, which takes us into the beginning of the new year, because it's really about the money that you're spending, the money that you're earning, how you are investing in your life, how you're creating material support in your life. And just with the squares of Saturn, it's just to do things the right way. It's to make sure that you know your value, you know your worth, even if you're asking for a raise, or the money that you're spending, the things that you're investing in are of a good value and that support you for the future. Gemini. So you had a full moon in your sign yesterday, and you still have that energy that's present with you as you start the week. It might be a big time for you, Gemini. You might be in the spotlight. And that's the thing between Mercury turning direct, Mercury square Saturn, Jupiter square Saturn into the 24th and even into the new year. It's a time where a lot is being asked of you. Typically, Gemini, it's a sign that sort of revels in the options. I'm going to do everything. I'm going to try everything. But that's kind of not where your astrology is at the moment. And I think even with Mercury turning direct in Sagittarius, your relationship sign, there is something that's very key about relationships at the moment. It doesn't have to be romantic relationships. It's the people who are in your life and how you interact and socialize with other people. There is some need for a commitment, a responsibility, gaining clarity as much as you can, because there is this sort of Neptune energy that's in the mix. Neptune just kind of adds a different flavor to it. It's like, I don't care if they give you $1 million or if you're the most powerful person in the world. First, it has to feed your soul. And so that Neptune energy throughout this week and even into next week is saying, like, don't forget about the things that truly matter and have meaning and purpose for you. You still are in this period where Saturn is in your 10th, your career. Like, what do you want to be when you grow up, Gemini? And maybe you've just got a lot of those sort of questions on your mind. And certainly as we get to the end of the year with Jupiter square Saturn, it is about these next big steps you're taking in your life, whether it's your career, whether it's the responsibilities that you play in the world, whether it's the stuff that you want to create in 2025. But this is not the week to cut corners, Gemini, and to really sit with sort of very deliberately with all the different options that you have on your plate at the moment. Cancer. So the moon is your planet, and this week we've just come off of a full moon, and that full moon was in something called your 12th. So just a little some temperature read, Cancer. How are you feeling? Do you feel like you need rest? Do you need to reflect? Do you need to relax? Because typically when there's a full moon in the 12th, there is a need to pull inward, to come to the end of something, to get reflective, to sort of think about things on a much higher level. As we start the week, however, the moon is in Cancer. That's you. So you're sort of in this sort of coming off of a cycle of endings and a cycle of beginnings. And that's the thing about being a Cancer, is that with the moon as your planet, you have these 28, 29 day cycles. And so your life moves a little bit more quickly than, let's say, a Capricorn who's ruled by Saturn. By the end of the week, the moon is in Libra, so that's going to take you through Cancer, which is about you. It's about new beginnings, taking action. And then throughout the middle of the week, it's about Leo. It's about the money that you make, the things that you value, even your self-worth and value, material stability and security. Then as we end out the week, we get to your... Gosh, I gotta figure out what's after Leo. Virgo. Virgo, this need to think about voice and communication, learning and travel, duties and responsibilities. And then by the weekend, The moon is in Libra, which is your sign of home and family. And, even though this was a few months ago, that you had that Libra new moon, or the Libra solar eclipse on October 2nd. And for Cancer, this puts a lot of energy of change and new beginnings and transitions in the home, the family, the household, and the living situation. I just wanted to mention this, and I even might have mentioned this last week, because as we get into Capricorn season, starting on the 21st, Capricorn is your relationship sign, we're starting to get to what's called the midpoint of the eclipses. So that's going to tie together that solar eclipse from October 2nd with the solar eclipse to come on March 29th or 30th. I can't remember the exact date. And it may mean that things are happening in your home environment as you start the year. Maybe these sort of changes, these moves that we've been talking about are focused on the end of the year, the beginning of the year. And this is all preparing you for that solar eclipse, that final solar eclipse in your career area next March. And that sort of these changes that have been happening over the last 16, 18 months in your professional environment. That said, we do have the Sun square Neptune this week, and just you being Cancer and more sensitive, maybe it's just a little bit more of a dreamy week, and maybe you're sort of really struggling to find that anchor point. But then again, we do have some Saturn energy in the mix, and that's saying create rituals, create grounding, take care of yourself, because certainly that's Neptune can create a lot of psychic energy for you, Cancer. Leo, the sun is your planet. So we are in that last week of Sagittarius season, and Sagittarius is a fellow fire sign. And for you, Leo, Sag season has been this, in a way, it's a coming back to yourself. You're like, well, wait a second, I'm a Leo. What does Sag have to do with Leo? So hopefully this makes sense. Leo, you are the fifth sign of the zodiac, and Sagittarius is your fifth sign. What do I mean by that? If I count out 5 signs from Leo, I get Sag. And so this reminds us that Sag and Leo actually have a lot in common apart from being fire signs. So this is a season for you to renew yourself, to get back to what makes you you, what lights you up, what gives you joy, what gives you passion, and to get that spark going again. With the sun reaching the end of Sagittarius this week, it's making a square to Neptune. So you do have Neptune in something called your 8th. It's been there for the last 13 years, another conversation for another time. But Saturn is also in your 8th. And it's just the reminder, Leo, that it has maybe not been an easy 2024. Or maybe it has been on some levels, but there's just been this heavier emotional energy with Saturn in your 8th. So even though Saturn's not in the mix with the square with Neptune, as much this week, it's still kind of there. And I think that what you're feeling as you go into the end of the year, it's to reflect. It's to be present with these deeper emotions and feelings, because on a much larger level, Neptune's time in your 8th has been a need to really release and to transform and to sort of, in a way, transcend these things that you've been holding on from the past. But like I said, that's been like the last 13 years. So maybe you need that Sag kick to remind you of what makes you you, because it has been a little bit of an emotionally heavy time. With the Sun square Neptune, you may feel tired this week. That's the thing. Neptune sometimes drains us, or it helps you to create a little bit more quiet and sacred time. And maybe you need that time to reflect and to get very clear about the things that you want to create in the new year, because Leo, this is a big time for you. We talked about this over the past few weeks, but Pluto is in your 7th. It's going to be there for a couple of decades. So this sort of is this bigger shift of seasons in your life, and one where how you relate and connect to other people is at the early stages of a big change. And maybe this is bringing up a lot of these deeper feelings, intimacy, vulnerability, trust. Who can I trust? But it's good to sit with it. because when you get to, let's say, a Capricorn season, when you sort of get to eventually next year when Saturn starts to leave Pisces, is to be in a very different place with yourself, because 2023, 4, and 5 was this necessary time for you to look inward, to prepare you for this next big chapter of your life. Virgo, so Mercury is your planet, and it is now direct as of yesterday, December 15th. Mercury has been in Sagittarius, which is your fourth sign, home, family, roots, foundation. Certainly it is this season to focus on home and family. Maybe you've just wanted to spend more time at home, and this is, I think, even been since November when Mercury first went into Sagittarius, if I'm remembering my astrology correctly. Or it's also talking about matters concerning the home, concerning the family. Mercury retrograde, you've needed to go back to something, and retrogrades being retrogrades, maybe it brings up something from the past, and home and family being home and family, maybe it's something in regards to your past with your family or experiences from growing up. So now that Mercury is direct, either what have you discovered, what has come to light, what is more clearly in focus, if that's even possible. It's an interesting time to be a Virgo because you've got Jupiter square Saturn. This is it's into next week, but in reality, this is into 2025, and this has been since June, really. It's been a time to put things in order. It's been a time to get very clear about the things that are going to be in your life and not in your life, whether that's about your home environment, your living situation, whether that's about relationships. And Virgo, this continues to be a major time in your life to focus on relationships. That either means building partnership and connection, setting boundaries, setting healthy limits in relationships and partnerships, or making, in some cases, serious commitments in relationships. This energy, even though Saturn is not part of the general mix in the moment, it's with that full moon that we just had, because we just had that full moon in Gemini, which is your sign of career, it's your public life, the direction that your life is going, and it's just pulling at these 4 directions of your life. And it's just saying that things really need to consolidate. And just maybe while the retrograde was happening, you just didn't have the full clarity that you needed. But at least in theory, going forward now, you have clarity, I hope. But then there's Sun square Neptune, and Neptune isn't known for clarity. But I think, Saturn is very real world, very real life. Neptune really starts to open up to us to something beyond. And everything that you're feeling and everything that you're wondering about your life right now, maybe with the square to Neptune this week, it's like, how can you forgive, have compassion? How can you let go? How can you transcend something? Where can you make peace? Not always easy things, but that's the energy that's bringing you into 2025. Libra, so Venus is your planet, and as we start this week at least, Venus is still in Aquarius. Aquarius is Libra's 9th sign. So this says that as you go into the end of the year, maybe you are thinking about long distance travel, exploration. Maybe it's not literally travel and exploration, but you want to make your world bigger in a way that is relevant to your life. Maybe you're thinking about education, maybe you're getting philosophical, and then there's also, for some Libras, it's a time to get very clear. What do you stand for? What do you believe in? What do you think is true? Venus last week lined up with Pluto. So I think I said this last week, and I think this was even into the weekend previous. Venus conjunct Pluto is sort of this reminder that on some level you are in a new era, Libra. Pluto in Aquarius for you is your 9th sign, and while the 9th sign gets into these bigger questions about faith and philosophy and truth and education, exploration, and while these are not tangible subjects, really take note of the things that have been coming up in the last week and a half for you, because they sort of poke at and thread into a bigger story that will be with you over the coming years. That said, we just had a Gemini full moon. Gemini is a fellow air sign like you. Wait, did I say Aquarius was your ninth sign? I'm so sorry. It was your fifth sign. So the fifth, think about doing mental gymnastics. So the fifth sign is what you believe is like your how you express who you are, your identity, yourself. I was confusing my Venus and my Gemini full moon. So in a way, all of that is true. But if we go back to Pluto in your fifth, this is the start of a bigger time of you stripping away the things that are not you. Like, who are you? Who are any of us? And Pluto is saying, Pluto doesn't do artifice. Pluto says you need to get to the heart and the core of who you truly are so that you can express the power and truth of who you are. That said, Gemini full moon and your ninth gets into these themes about philosophy, truth, and meaning. See, there's the ninth. And so Libra is a air sign, just like Gemini, just like Aquarius. So it might be, even as you start the week, a time of quick ideas, big thoughts, big information. Switching gears a little bit, and I think I even spoke about this last week. We had 3 months ago, we had a Libra solar eclipse on October 2nd. And you're thinking, wait, that's 3 months ago. But that's the thing about eclipses, is that they're still very much alive. And now, when the sun goes into Capricorn on the 21st, we're going to go into Capricorn season. And then we have, I think it's a Capricorn new moon on the 30th of December. But we're going to start to see that eclipse energy come into full view. And that will take us, of course, into the new year. But I wanted to mention that because that solar eclipse was in Libra, and you are a Libra sun or you're a Libra rising. So this is a dynamic time in your life, a time of new beginnings, new directions. And just start to pay attention as we go into the new year. Where do you start to see this dynamic energy, this time of new beginnings and new directions coming into your life? And with that in mind, how do you stay true to who you are? With the Gemini full moon starting to be a little bit in our rear view, but still very much present as we get into the end of the year. What do I believe in? What do I stand for? And what do I think is true? Scorpio. So Mars is your planet, and Mars is retrograde for the next couple of months until February 23rd. No big deal. That's just a part of the rhythm and cycle of life. Mars was last retrograde from August of 2023. August of 2022 to March of 2023. So every 2 years we have Mars retrograde. A retrograde is a time for you to rewind, for you to go backwards, for you to reflect, for you to go to something that maybe you push past and now you need to go back and take a second look at it. Everybody, of course, is different. Mars in Leo is a fire sign. Scorpio is water. Water is about feelings and emotions. It's about the ability to move from life's different passages. It's very psychological. Fire is what motivates you and inspires you, what lights you up and gives you joy, what gives you that spark of life, because Leo is the sign of the sun. It's always very interesting to think how Leo, the sign of the sun, the most visible of all the planets, is your career sign. And I always think of Scorpios wanting to, be behind the scenes. But it's just a reminder, Scorpios, like, what role are you playing in the world? What, sort of positions of power? What's your relationship with power? Are you doing what you love in the world? Do you need to have a shift of priorities? These are questions that, of course, don't have answers right now. And maybe you need the whole cycle of the retrograde going into, because Mars doesn't leave the retrograde period. It turns direct on the 23rd of February, but doesn't leave 6 Leo, which is the degree of the retrograde, until the beginning of May. So get used to Leo, because for by and large, you're really focusing on this part of your life as you go into June of 2025. Yes, you heard that correctly. But think with Mars going back into Cancer on January 3rd. Yes, January 3rd. It's to go back to the philosophical heart of why you're doing what you're doing. Do you need to reevaluate that? And that's something that we'll keep coming back to during this retrograde process. So there's that. There's also the Gemini full moon that we just had yesterday. It lit up something called your 8th sign. So this has been about information coming to light, conversations needed to be had, choices need to be made. Maybe these bigger themes around trust and vulnerability, power, control, because Mercury turned direct, and also Mercury is square Saturn. So there's something about really needing to be in an authority and to be completely above board in the choices that you're making and how you're speaking, listening, and communicating. This is energy that's going to take us into the new year. This could also be a full moon about financial matters, really looking at assets and finance and the things that you have, the money that you're investing, the money that you're making, the money that you don't have, and really feeling that motivation to make some changes, because that's where the Saturn energy comes in. And Saturn says you need to get very black and white about some things in your financial life. Sagittarius. So last almost full week of Sagittarius. So by the 21st, the sun goes into Capricorn. So in the meantime, happy birthday. If you're part of that last stage, born that last week of Sagittarius, your sun aligns with these very deep space points. So I always feel like that last week of Sag is a little bit otherworldly, a little bit extraterrestrial. Maybe you feel that energy in yourself. Maybe you don't. I don't know. So we just had the Gemini full moon just yesterday as I record this, and this full moon lit up your relationships. It's not just romantic relationships, it's how you connect, interact, and socialize with people. This is typically, there's a Gemini full moon roughly around this time of year, give or take. So tis the season to also focus on other people, as you are also focusing on either your birthday or the start of your personal astrological calendar year. There is something about relationships that's being very highlighted because Mercury, having just turned direct and also square Saturn, you either need to have some serious conversations, you need to really look at commitments that you're making, you need to be very clear about how you think and how you communicate. Even with Mercury square Saturn, which is your career sign, it is a push to step up into a role of authority. This is not the week to cut corners, especially with Jupiter square Saturn into the 24th and quite honestly into the beginning of the year. Life is sort of pushing you to take a step up. However that is relevant in your life, Sagittarius. Saturn continues to be in the base and foundation of your astrology as you come to the end of 2024 and even at the beginning of 2025. It is still a time to find the balance between your home environment and also your desires, your public, can't speak. Also your professional desires, wants, and needs. There you go. But having said all that, we do have the square to Neptune this week. Neptune actually has been in your 4th sign since way back in February of 2012. And so you are actually coming to an end of a time where you've had to do a lot of deeper release work, deeper purging around family and the home, and maybe little echoes of that happening this week. But it's just, there's a lot of pressure on you, Sag, and I know I've said this quite a few times over the past weeks, plural, but that energy, do something with it, build something with it, show up, be the authority, be the mentor, so you can use this energy in positive ways. Capricorn, happy early birthday, Capricorn. So starting on the 21st, of course, we have the solstice and the sun arrives in your sign. So with the sun arriving in your sign, we also will have that sort of check back on Saturn's time in Pisces. So your ruler Saturn has been in Pisces since March of 2023. You hear me say this every week, at least since March of 2023. And so this just continues to be a time to really look at the power of choice, the choices that you're making, how you are thinking, how you are listening, how you are learning, how you're communicating, because Pisces is kind of a funny sign for Saturn to be in, because it's not about matter in the material world, it's about the spiritual world and trying to find the balance between the two. Just to put maybe I said this recently, but just to sort of put this on your radar, Capricorn, you got a big change next year. You've got your planet, Saturn, beginning to go into Aries. This will be starting on May 24th until September 1st. It's a preview, but it's sort of this reminder that you're coming to the end of something as you prepare to go into 2025. And 2025 is the start of something, because Aries energy symbolically is the first sign of the zodiac. It's about new beginnings, and how there is sort of this preview of new beginnings as you go into the end of May next year. I'm getting ahead of myself. So these are just energies as you start your personal year, whether you are Sun in Capricorn, whether you're Capricorn rising. It's just know that there's going to be a shift point. So pretty much like the second half of 2025 is going to be a little bit different than the first half of 2025. With the sun going into Capricorn, you're going to start to see threads back to that October 2nd solar eclipse in Libra, which is your career sign, and also threads to a future eclipse on March 29th of 2025. And so it says that this is a birthday season or a personal beginning that actually may bring the energy of eclipses. Eclipses can bring personal events, turning points, and this is the energy that you bring into the new year. Having said that, because the energy of the eclipse, the energy of the full moon was yesterday, it's still with us. This full moon put the spotlight on your sixth sign. It's health, it's wellness, it's how you take care of your body, it's the rituals of your daily life, it's showing up, it's being on time. This full moon did connect in a way to you. More is being asked of you. And I know you're already a Capricorn. You're like, how can more be asked of me? But more is being asked of you. And with the Mercury square Saturn, even into the next week or so, it's just to really look at the conversations that are that are happening in your life right now. Because maybe you need to either show up differently or make things very clear, or you have to be the authority, or you have to be a mentor, because it's possible that serious conversations are happening right now, and maybe again a lot is being asked of you at the moment, Capricorn. We'll of course talk more about your birthday season, but this is sort of these sort of shift points, turning points, philosophical turning points as you go into your birthday season. Aquarius. So Saturn is your planet. It's still in Aquarius. So this continues to be a time about material stability and security, the things that you invest in, the things that you spend time and money in, and also self-worth and value. We are a day past a Gemini full moon. That Gemini full moon, Gemini is a fellow air sign, just like you, Aquarius. It put the spotlight on your fifth sign. This is a full moon to put the focus on the things that actually light you up and give you joy, that help you create that spark of life. And for some Aquariuses, it's really to look at your creativity. Like what sort of creative projects are you investing your time and energy in at the moment? And for some Aquariuses, this is about children. It's about taking the best of yourself, which is to put it into something which is like children. So we have this Gemini full moon. We do have the sun moving through Sagittarius this week, and Sagittarius is coming to the end of your personal calendar. So whether you are a Aquarius sun or Aquarius rising, note that when the sun goes into Capricorn later this week on the 21st, Saturday, you begin to go into that last 4 weeks of your personal year. The end of the year, at the beginning of the year, is typically a time to go inward. It is to reflect. It is to shed the past. It is to take a deeper awareness of the things that happened throughout the previous 11 months, things that you want to create in the coming year. If you are a Aquarius rising, typically you might feel this a little bit more, that the end of December, beginning of January is a little bit more of a time of rest and reflection. This is all going to come up to, there's going to be a Capricorn new moon around the 30th. Yeah, that's right, around the 30th of December. So it's like to use the start of the year with this sort of mindset of like, okay, what do I not want to bring with me into 2025? Because that's the new moon spirit, and to be very clear about what's of value to you and going into 2025, and what is not of value to you going into 2025, and really building and constructing accordingly. Pisces, last but not least, Jupiter is your planet. It's still in Gemini. So, of course, every Pisces is going to live this differently. But this continues to be, in general, a time to focus on home, family, roots, and foundation. It's a reminder that life requires responsibility and work and duties, but it can't be work, do. We need to make sure that we're actually nourishing ourselves with the things that actually support us and help us to feel more internally safe and secure. And so for some Pisces, as you go into the new year, it's about moving, changes in the home environment, somebody moving in, somebody moving out, and need to focus on your family. Because don't forget, Jupiter is square Saturn. In fact, Jupiter will make maybe its last square to Saturn. Can't remember, on the 24th. And so Saturn energy, it's kind of very particular. It says that on some level, Pisces, more is being asked of you. I know I keep saying this every week. It's not very fun, but what do you do with it? Do you become a mentor? Do you get very clear? Do you get quote unquote sober? Whether that's literal or not literal. Do you need to set boundaries? Do you need to set goals? Because you continue to have Saturn in your sign for the better part of 2025, except from the 24th of May to September 1st. So Saturn energy says you need to take time, you need to take commitments, you need to take your life seriously. I know, just putting my, doing my work to teach everybody about Saturn. So it is a little bit of heavier energy, and maybe you've been using this time to really focus on your home environment and to really create some stability and security in your life. Sag season is about your professional life, but as the sun goes into Capricorn, starting on the 21st, you're starting to arc towards the end of your personal calendar. And it says that the end of the year and the beginning of the year is a natural time for you to focus on friends, community, your social circle, for example. So, that said, I don't want to forget about Mercury square Saturn this week. So this might be a week into the new year where you need to make some serious decisions or to get very clear about who and what your commitments are. So there you go. That is your look at the astrology of this week, December 16th through 22nd, 2024. Again, I appreciate you all. God, I can't speak English. Again, I appreciate you all. It's been a heck of a year. I hope you all are well. I know some of you are my clients. Thank you. I know some of you listen every week. Thank you. You can also book a consultation with me. You can follow me online. I'm empoweringastrology.com. I'm on Facebook. I'm on Instagram. I'm on Spotify. I'm on YouTube. So, and of course, I'm here. So, I appreciate you all, and I will see you all next week for one of our last shows of 2024. So until then, take care. Bye-bye.